Okay, we're now recording. Okay, welcome everybody. Just so you know, this class is being recorded for learning purposes. If you can, jump into the Nearpod lesson. I've thrown that in the chat, and you can follow along with me there. If not, when you have comments and stuff like that, please throw them in the chat. I'll be watching that as we go through and get things done for today. Okay, just so as a reminder, as we're going through the Nearpod lesson, make sure we're following along with the Nearpod lesson, using the chat tools respectfully and appropriately, and then also responding to questions and instructions the first time. That helps us just be able to fly through this stuff and get things done. Okay, what we're going to go over today is state and national standards. This is something that the teachers abide by to know what to teach. And then once we know what to teach, then we can create curriculum and know what it is there. Now, there's been a lot of, I guess, controversy about these standards, but I think everybody knows that there's like there needs to be something, some kind of baseline of what kids need to know at each level, right? And whether that's debated or not of what those exactly are, that there should be some type of, as what they call them, standard that we should be reaching up to. Okay, so but before I go into that, let's just run through the class real quick. Just a reminder, all the recordings are on the announcement page right here. You should see upcoming events, things that are going to happen. If we go into course plan, let's see here. We have live class today, and then we have our 2 assignments to end off everything. Our course reflection, which I just want you to go over just kind of what you learned in the class. Just tell me you learned something. Maybe give me some feedback. That'd be great. And then the other one is our lesson 5 assignment, which I will talk about in a second. We do have the end of the block is ending fairly soon. So if you're behind, this will give you some time to catch up. We have our skills test that will be at Thursday, May 25th at 1:15. So if you want to, this is not required. However, it is great for those that were in the part 1 of the class. Those that passed, they got certificates to them in the mail. It's really good to put on job resumes, that kind of stuff, to say that you have these skills available. All right, so as we jump in here, the content will be at Unit 5. Here's the Nearpod lesson. I will post the recording here. We have Lesson 5 assignment and the course reflection. And the Lesson 5 assignment is right here. It's 3 questions. It's more kind of research-based of something you would want to do. And you go there. You've not received your certificate. This will just be on part 2. Allie, I'm going to check. Let me write that down right now. Check. Just so you're aware, those certificates were supposed to be mailed to you. So make sure you're checking the mail, and hopefully they didn't throw it away. If not, we can see if we can mail one or something like that. So has anybody else received their certificate that took it last time? Okay, somebody else got theirs. So maybe you want to check the mail, or we may have to check your address. Why don't you stay after real quick, and we can look to see if your address, right? Okay. All right, cool. All right. Here we go. So state and national standards. Okay, so in Utah, the public education system, how the standards are created is you can see a lot of different bodies. It's all kind of political, right? That's where like anything with politics, it seems to be, I don't know, so divisional. But you have the federal government that has what they say need to be doing, and then you have that they have different laws that they have to abide by, and then you have the Utah State Legislature, the Utah Governor, and the Utah State Board of Education. Okay, and they all give authority, or they're the ones that kind of make the standards, the Utah State Board of Education, of what they are. And then they kind of give the authority to the public schools, so such as a charter school or a district school or whatever, of what these standards are and how they are implemented. So the State Board of Education, they are over all of this kind of stuff. There's so much detail into it. It takes years basically to learn all of this stuff. But I'll just go over some like, if you've ever heard of school trust lands, that's some funding that comes to the state, to them, graduation requirements, federal programs that they have to do, approving charter schools, licensures of educators. They have other things for specific students, like the Utah School of the Deaf and Blind, career and technical education. All those kind of things are under the board's direction. But as we kind of get there, what they're looking at it, and this is taken directly from the state of Utah of how they're looking at it, is they have the standards. There's national standards that have been put out, but they created their standards, their state standards. And from those state standards, there's curriculum that's developed then by the teachers. And then assessments are given by the state. So such as the skills test that we'll take, that's like an assessment. Same with end of year testing, as well as like ACT, SAT. And then all of it's supposed to lead to college and career readiness. Okay. That's something we've talked about. You've probably heard quite a bit. Some of your teachers talk about. I speak about that in my personal finance class quite a bit, as well as other CTE courses. So for example, if education is what you like, you've liked some of these classes, some of these things that they've been doing, it's all leading to be able to be very, have a literate society that's able to be able to know what's going on and be able to run the future of this country. So, okay, so the main core standards that they look on and they test is English language arts and mathematics. They've also tested science as well. And they also have CTE skills tests, but a lot of the other ones, they do not actually have like common like tests that you go in and test assessments. So for example, like I teach a PE class as well. You have there are the standards the one area created by one teacher or as a department. So the standards, good question. The standard is what is given to us of what we need to teach you. And then the teacher goes in and creates how they're going to teach you that standard. Does that make sense? That's a very good question though. And we're going to kind of go over that in a second. Like we're going to go to the Utah core standards, which is right here. And this is kind of what your assignment is like whatever subject or area that interests you, you can click on it and see those standards of what it is. They give you examples, but like as a teacher, like this was one of the things that I was told I need to teach you is about standards, federal and state standards. So that's why I'm doing it. And this is how I am presenting it to you. Okay. All right. So let's watch this little video about how standards are or why it's important. And we'll go from there.
Like it or not, life is full of measuring sticks. How smart we are, how fast we are, how well we can, compete. But up until now, It's been pretty hard to tell how well kids are competing in school and how well they're going to do when they get out of school. We like to think that our education system does that, but when it comes to learning what they really need to be successful after graduation, is a girl in your neighborhood being taught as much as her friend over in the next one? Is a graduating senior in, say, St. Louis as prepared to get a job as the graduate in Shanghai? Well, it turns out the answer to both of these questions is no. Because for years, states have been setting different standards for what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. That's making it too hard to know if our kids are really doing well enough overall, and if they can really compete for a job someday. What we really need are clear goals. That's where the Common Core state standards come in. They're like a total sea change in education. Consistent, strong, clear benchmarks for English language arts and math. Here's how it works. You can think of kindergarten through 12th grade like a giant staircase. Each step is a skill your child needs to learn before stepping up to the next one. But right now, too many kids aren't really confident with like 2 plus 2 before they have to move on to 2 times 2. We need more focus on the skills that help them move up the stairs, or they can slip up and fall behind. And there's another problem. What if everyone's stairs were made at different heights? Well, here we go again. They are. So, a boy in Seattle who's rocking an A in English literature could be getting a C on his Chicago friend's staircase. Oops. We need to create consistent steps in education too. So first, each standard creates a landing on the staircase, a stop along the way as your child heads toward high school graduation. Each stop is a chance for every parent and teacher to focus on the skills their students are supposed to know at that step, no matter the zip code, language, or race. And more importantly, each standard makes sure all students are learning what they need to know to get to graduation and beyond. Because something like counting to 100 leads to understanding dollars and cents, which eventually leads to understanding how to manage a budget. Secondly, the standards are consistent from school to school, and they match up against international standards too. Now we know how we're doing compared to just about everyone. So even though local communities will still design their own curriculum with the same rules, everybody can compete on the same kind of staircase. But standards aren't learning. That's why we need teachers, parents, and students to help make that happen by working together to help kids meet these standards. The world's getting more and more competitive every day. But now, when our kids get to the top of their staircase, they can have way more options on where their life goes from there. Clear goals, confident, well-prepared students. That's the Common Core state standards.
All right. So hopefully that gave you some insight into why, right? I kind of like that because it just shares that, what we're learning here in Utah is the same that somebody else is learning somewhere else. So we're kind of all on the same level, and we kind of understand, have that same goal, the same goals in mind. Okay. So here's just some things they kind of threw in there. I'll just run through these real quick. We won't need to know them a lot, but the Common Core, it doesn't come with any kind of federal funds or anything like that. There's not curriculum to it. It's not student database. It's not part of FERPA. It's not part of what's called No Child Left Behind. Not part of Race to the Top. So basically, it's just saying you need to learn this at this level. Okay. So what it does is it really takes what we call a collaborative effort with different experts, right? So teams kind of get together. So for example, there's a conference that I attend for with different subjects I teach. So for example, this week I actually went to the driver's education conference, and we talked about the standards there that the kids need to make, right? I go to one there about law enforcement because I have a law enforcement area where we talk about the standards that we need to teach for law enforcement. Also, other ones I'm reaching out to different, for example, I teach geography as well. I'm reaching out to different geography teachers saying, hey, how are we aligning? Are we teaching what needs to be taught? And so it's a collaborative effort across all the whole world actually, right? Of trying to meet those same goals. So they did what they call peer review these standards with other kind of states and countries. You can see here, they went through and they said, okay, what they're teaching in, as it says, Delaware and Georgia and all of these different places. They compare what they call like a meta-analysis, where they take into consideration all these different areas and they work through them and see if they match up, and they are matched up. Okay, hold on. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry, guys. My little tiny boy is a pain that comes and walks in. Of course, he needed something, right? Okay. So this one just talks about that research again, where they're going over all of those different sections. They've also had different what's called think tanks to be able to go and see what if Utah core standards are meeting up with the core standards of other states. And so they have this quote kind of at the bottom: the Common Core provides admirable focus and explicitly requires standard methods and procedures enhancements that would benefit Utah's standards. So what they did is they actually had old standards, and they're constantly revising these standards too. So for example, if I had a lesson that I'm teaching, they may change the standards and I'm going to have to go and redo my lesson in order to hit those kind of standards. Okay, that's just some data they kind of showed there. Okay, one of the thing that's a metric to kind of see if we as teachers are teaching correctly, and that's why we have the end of level testing and the ACT, SAT, and then this one talks about the college board. Utah does the ACT. Other states may require the SAT. They're comparable college readiness tests. And so in 11th grade, that's what you take. And that data, we can see, hey, are we teaching you enough on these standards in certain areas? And so what we can do is we can take that data overall. We're not looking at individual people, but we're just looking at basically, have we taught this subject right? Oh, we need to focus on this one. The same with the NWEA that I'm sure you guys are not super thrilled to take, but that really gives us good data to try to improve our job as teachers, right? And that's the biggest thing is kind of improvement. So one of the things they talked about was, are certain states think that their core standards are better, and they kind of fight over this a little bit. So we have our state board of education will speak with other state boards of education to see what they are doing. There is, as I said, those national kind of standards, but we all put them in and make them different depending on our culture that's in our state and what's best for our students. So it gives us as teachers the autonomy to be able to do that. So that's why I said, does the state board is able to customize the Common Core standards of Utah? And the answer is yes. And we modify it to make it fit what we want to be. So for example, like in California, they may have different values than we have here in Utah. And so we make sure those values are hit here in Utah, that they might not do there. The testing that you do at the end of the year, they've made them all computer based now. They used to be handwritten. You had to do them on a thing, but now they're computer adaptive testing, and you go on there and it creates as harder or lower depending to see where your level is at. And so that's why sometimes when you're taking a test, it gets to so hard of questions, you don't know what they are until it finds your level. And so that's really good metric to kind of see as we're looking at that. But overall, what we're trying to do with data, the state of Utah is create what's called a longitudinal data system, which means that, you know, we're looking at all of this data to see if our trend is going up and if we're increasing and teaching better. And if we're not, what are we able to do to help students learn better, right? And it's all about coming back down to the student and helping the student the best they can. So I know that testing some of you guys is not the funnest thing in the world, and you guys don't like to do it, but to be able to show what you guys know is beneficial to the state overall. This is what's called NAP. We're going to skip that. That doesn't have anything to do. Okay, getting to what I wanted to get to. So on lesson 5, what you're going to do is you have 3 questions here. They're all basically written. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the UEN core, which I'm going to go right here, and you're going to think about, okay, what would I like to go to? What is interesting to me? And then what grade level too? For example, if you are, as you can see, they have all of these different things, okay? So if you like younger kids and you'd rather teach like younger, you can look at the 1st through 6th grade. If you like art, right? So you go to art, you go to like 2nd grade, and then these would be the standards right here. And they have them right here. You know, students will conceptually that. So that's your first thing, is you need to pick a subject that you want to look into, and a grade level, and write the subject and grade level below. So let's go back again. And so, for example, I will do one that I teach. So if I go to physical education, because I teach physical education, I teach individual lifetime activities. If you haven't taken it, take it from me. Pretty good, okay? So you can see fall of 2016 is when they last redid the standards. And here are the standards that they know. So you have strands. So you have strand 1, strand 2, and then you have standards underneath them. Of course, there's so many standards that you are not going to be able to meet all of them. But what I do is I go and you have to focus on what you believe is the most important, because there's just not enough time. So this one says students will achieve a lesson of competency in motor skills and movement patterns. Okay. And you look at the standards here. So as our assignment, so if we were to do this, we'd do physical education, lifetime activities, grade levels 9 through 12 is when you take that. And so that's what I would write here in question 1. Question 2 is write all of the strands below in the subject. So it's really going to be this easy. I come through here and I can just copy this. This is strand 1. And I'll just paste it in here. Okay, that's strand 1. But it said all of the strands. So strand 1, there's only going to be about usually 5 to 8 strands. So this one has 5 strands. So I can just copy and put those over. And then the last one says, write out one standard that interests you from the subject and grade level you chose. So for example, let's say I like strand 4, which is students will develop cooperative skills and positive personal behavior through communication and respect to others. And just say, I like this standard right here, which is utilize time effectively to include setting personal goals, practicing, and completing assigned tasks and activities. Just copy, and I paste it in here, and then I submit. Okay? So that is going to be your assignment this week with a course reflection, which the course reflection is just basically write what you feel like you've learned in the class. So that ends us to the very end here. Do you guys have any questions or anything like that? I'll stop the recording, but I'm happy to answer any questions for you. And then if we want to stay after and see where we're at on that one, Allie.